What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and this video want to talk about WB Games. They did a investor call or earnings call earlier today, and they said some interesting stuff, right? Number one, things are not going well. We'll talk a little bit about that, but they also talk about kind of their four pillars, right? Four franchises or IPs, or whatever you want to call it, that they are really going to focus on. And this is WB Games, right? This is not like Warner Bros. As a whole. This is their games division. Four things they're going to focus on. I want to talk about those four, and I want to talk about if it's the right move, because I do have some takes on that. So, number one, they basically say things are not going well in terms of gaming. I think they had to add an extra $100 million on top of their already $200 million being losing money, right? The $200 million they attributed to Suicide Squad, whether you want to blame it or blame other things, and they just lump Suicide Squad in it, whatever. The $100 million they say is because of Multiverses. So Suicide Squad cost them $200, and the Multiverses cost them $100. And for Multiverses, I actually still like Multiverses. I mean, I haven't played it in a little bit, but I like the game. I think the game is solid. I think it's just it caught fire originally. It caught fire 2.5, 3 years ago, and now it's just not being played. I mean, you can look at Steam numbers, and that probably doesn't tell the whole story, but it gives you a good amount of data. When it doesn't even crack 2,000 people a day, that's a huge issue for a free-to-play brawler, right? When they really want it to attract people. So, and I mean, the peak is multiple hundreds of thousands, and now it can't even hit 2,000. So that should show you it hasn't been successful. I very much believe them when they say that game hasn't really done what they thought it would do. And so, they say a couple things. They say instead of launching 10, 12, 15, 20 different games, they have a real chance now with focus to have the gaming business be steadier. So they want to focus on four brands or four game franchises: Hogwarts Legacy, Mortal Kombat, Game of Thrones, and DC, in particular, Batman. Okay, so let's quickly go through. I don't think they're all as interesting as each other. Some of them are more, but let's go through them each. So Hogwarts Legacy, I mean, no duh. We keep talking about this. When you sell 30 million units, you probably want to make more of those. So Harry Potter. I mean, I said this before literally anybody else. Okay, I want to give myself credit for that. They need to have more than one of these things going at a time. Now, Quidditch Champions came out and it was played, and it did. I think Quidditch Champions did okay. I don't think it set the world on fire, but it did okay. They need one or two Wizarding World games per year. And I mean, you could maybe include mobile stuff because they're always in and out of that stuff as well, but you need other Wizarding World experiences. And then your Hogwarts Legacies, those huge AAA open world games, right? That is your main one that you drop every 3-4 years. That's my opinion. If they're not doing that, they need to do that. So, okay, that's number one. Mortal Kombat. All right, what's interesting about this, and also kind of sad, well, I do like Mortal Kombat. I think Mortal Kombat 1 is the weakest of the last 5, and I'm honestly a newer fan in terms of the hardcore lore even of Mortal Kombat, but I really appreciate what this last group, Mortal Kombat 9 on. I really appreciate these games, but I do think 1 is the worst of that group, at least in the storytelling department, not visuals or maybe even gameplay, but definitely from the story. I think it's getting worse. So, on one side of things, I do respect that franchise. I would absolutely take more, right? They give me another one, I would take another one. However, the scary thing that actually we're going to get to also with Batman is, well, what does this mean for other games, right? So they say these, and I mean, they flat out said before that they're not doing 10, 12, 15, 20 different types of games. So, the injustices of the world, I feel are in danger. I feel the positive is that they're trying to, minimize, right? They're trying to focus. I don't even think minimize is the right word. They're trying to focus on games that they really think can be successful. And look, when you're in their situation, you need to do that. And they need to be very high-quality games. So, hopefully, that means rebounds for a lot of these franchises, right? Well, a lot of them. Game of Thrones really has never been given a chance to shine. Batman, I mean, you've had Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights, and I think Gotham Knights was actually pretty okay, but you want that return to elite status. Mortal Kombat, like I just said, I want that to continue to rise. But if you're focusing on 4 things, you know what that means? You're not focusing on the 30 other things that could also make you money. So for Mortal Kombat and NetherRealm, you have Injustice, and you also just have new ideas. Now, okay, Mortal Kombat, can you do a Shaolin Monk remake that people have been asking asking for like 15 years. Now, that's in the Mortal Kombat universe, right? It's just not like a numbered entry that we're in right now, right? So, like, maybe, like, if you can do that, I think that would satisfy people. That would make me actually pretty happy. But, like, okay, Injustice, like, I think that's in danger. I really do. I actually don't know now. I was pretty confident that Injustice was next, just because I don't think you can do 3 Mortal Kombat games in a row. But with this, it's like, well, I mean, they want them to triple down on it, and I don't know if they would approve an Injustice. But yet again, Injustice would have Batman. you could maybe spin it like that, and maybe that would get them interest. I don't know, But you're also literally not doing Mortal Kombat unless you do another, Mortal Kombat versus DC thing. Okay, so that's one idea. That's just on Mortal Kombat. Game of Thrones. I mean, I touched on it just a little bit. Like, it's never really been given a chance to shine. You had Telltale's Game of Thrones. I think you've had like mobile games, but you've never had like this like AAA, Witcher type game that's Game of Thrones. And I mean, obviously that would work. I mean, if done well, I mean, it has to be like a good game. But we know from other games like in the same genre that it absolutely would work. So hopefully that's something that they're thinking about. And wonder who would do it. We know Monolith is working on 2 games, right? Like Wonder Woman and something else. I wonder if actually that something else could be Game of Thrones, just kind of throwing it out there. So, I would take it, because that's one that's kind of just like underutilized and like unrealized potential. So I really don't actually have too much to say about that one. The Batman one, again, like I said for Mortal Kombat, scares me and excites me, right? Because again, focusing on Batman, okay, you got to make them work, and you're going to probably, give it your all, and you would expect really good products. The issue is, as we've talked about so many freaking times, right? Like what Rocksteady, right? So you go to like the source, you say, okay, well, who made like the greatest, trilogy of Batman ever, and really most of the Batman games that we have? Well, it's Rocksteady. Okay, but those people aren't there. It's Rocksteady in name, but not in people, right? So it's like, okay, well, who do you turn to? You turn to them? You probably do. I mean, the rumor is they are going to get a chance, and they're probably going to do a Batman game, right? But okay, I mean, like, all those things can be positive, I guess, if looked at a certain way. Well, what about the negative? Okay, well, you start off by saying DC, so there is a part of me that thinks, okay, well, they're willing to try different DC characters, right? But then they literally say, like, specifically Batman. Okay, you have a Wonder Woman game right now. Like, you are literally making a Wonder Woman game. So I guess we're going to ignore that. We're going to pretend like that's not happening. Also, do you not care about Superman? Why is DC only Batman, right? I mean, and we've talked about this before, right? I get it in terms of like the profitability stuff where it's like, okay, look, when you have all of these DC characters, are all of them profitable? The answer is honestly no, okay? And it takes so long to make a game, and some of them can be risks, right? Like if you do a Green Lantern game or a Green Arrow, let's stick with like the Green family, right? You pick one of them, okay? In all honesty, no jokes, right? You pick one of them, there's a risk there. There's a bigger risk than if you pick Batman. There's a bigger risk if you pick Superman. Now, I guess they're saying it's a bigger risk no matter what versus Batman. Okay, even if you pick Superman, that's still a risk as opposed to Batman because of just some reason that they've decided, right? Okay, so if you pick Green Arrow, it's taken 4 or 5 years to make. It's a lot of money, $100-200 million, and you do not know if it's actually going to work. And from that point of view, I get why they do stuff like this. I get why they limit it and say, we can't mess around with Aquaman. What if people don't like water? And I love water. I would be the number one fan there, right? But what if people don't like it? I get it, but it also really bleeds creativity, right? Like you are limiting so much of what people are able to do because you're telling them stick to one freaking superhero. You've got so many. But specifically, what I find most ironic is that Wonder Woman is literally in development. Batman, you don't even have the people that made you those good Batman games anymore. So like you're relying on just the names. And then like Superman, can we get a freaking Superman game? Like and here's the thing. I guess here's the last part to this, right? So like, okay, Green Arrow and stuff like that, yeah, you don't know if it's going to work. And again, like I can understand the risk and why they would want to limit it. But here's the thing. You need risks sometimes, right? Because if you rely on the same franchises and same games over and over and over again, well, number one, you're eventually going to have people get bored, right? There's eventually going to be fatigue. Oftentimes it comes from quality, not from the actual product, but it can come from the product, right? Okay, we've just had too many of these things. But also, like, if you don't have those things, you're locking yourself out of those potential. Does that make sense? Like, if you never do a Superman game, what if Superman comes out and it sells 8 million units? Like, you never will know that until you do it. And now you've just unlocked a new pillar, right? So these are their 4 pillars, right? They want these games. But what if you make a Superman game and it does outstanding? Well, now you can have 5 pillars. What if Wonder Woman does great? Now you got 6. What if Injustice 3 outsells Mortal Kombat? Now you got 7. Do you see what I mean? Like, you don't. Now, some of them might not work, but I think, like, you can still make strategic choices, right? I'm not saying going after Green Arrow. Like, I know people would want some of, like, the lesser known or lesser up characters that have the spotlight on them. But, like, honestly, like, what's realistic versus unrealistic? But you can pick other, like, Justice League characters. I feel like that's the way to go. Teen Titans, like Batman, like Batman's not in charge there, right? You got Robin and stuff, but that is, I think, a very popular thing that would do well. If you don't do them, you never know if they would work. And do you really want to be stuck with 4 pillars forever? What if one of them falters? What if you can't recapture Batman? What if you can't, what if Mortal Kombat keeps going, in my opinion, in a bad direction, right? Like, what happens there? Okay, now you got 2. 2 pillars just died. Now you've only got 2 left. Well, if you made a Superman game, you might be able to replace one. What if you replaced Batman with Superman, right? Or again, like, you could say you could add it to, or you could replace it. Doesn't really matter, right? But if you don't do them, you'll never know. So that is the huge, again, I get it where it's like, hey, they need guaranteed hits. They are struggling more than like anybody, right? Like Ubisoft, obviously, but okay, maybe Ubisoft number 1, but then them number 2. But at the same time, like, I don't know, you still got to be smart. You gotta pick your battles. You gotta really, nail some of these next hits that you're gonna have, or I guess releases that you want to be hits. But you also need to take strategic chances, because if you're gonna just rely on these things, I don't know, specifically what I just said, Batman, you do not know. Like, just making another Arkham game, you're just saying it. That's just a name. Just saying, okay, Batman Arkham blank. You don't know if that's going to work. You don't know the talent behind it. If you're giving it to Rocksteady, it is not a guaranteed success. Absolutely not. You think you're going to fool people into thinking that it's going to be great just because of the name? Absolutely not. People are skeptical now because of what happened with Suicide Squad, right? So that's not a slam dunk that they might think it is. And then Mortal Kombat, like I said, I think 1 is like the first like bad one in terms of the story, where like things I'm noticing that things are not going in a good direction. Okay, and that's just me. Maybe that's not the case with everybody, but I don't know. Like, do you want NetherRealm to only do Mortal Kombat? It feels like a waste of their talent level. I mean, again, not to diminish Mortal Kombat, but like, they're capable of like swapping back and forth, right? They can do other things and come back to Mortal Kombat. That's like an evergreen thing that'll always be around. So I don't know. I can understand it in one sense, but I also kind of hate it, in the other sense. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.